Okay, today I want to tie the knotted midge. Now midges, very small flies. This is a dry fly. They're very common everywhere. Garden ponds, rivers, lakes, even in the water tub outside your back door. I'm sure we've all seen trout rising regularly when there are apparently no flies hatching. Well, they're probably feeding on midges because trout love them. If newcomers to fly tying find difficulty in tying a small midge, the solution is to tie two of them on one hook, like this, in the act of mating. Now, there's several midges. This is a single one. Don't expect you, because I'm talking to newcomers, I'm aiming at newcomers, I don't expect you to tie this just yet. So when you tie two on the same hook, a long shank hook, is one hook but two midges tied by the tail, hence the knotted midge, is what we call the midges in the act of mating. Now, patterns for mating gnats and midges have been used on our rivers for years. That is the Ogmore and the Iweni. And although in the main, those artificials do not take into account the different coloration between the male and female. And you will see that I'm trying to take this into consideration today by using two different colour hackles. So you'll see I've got a brown one on the tail, pardon me, the aft, and I've got a badger one on the fore, because it's tied fore and aft. But I must tell you, a black one also does very well, but I don't think quite as well as this. I'll show you a black one. This is an all black one. You can use black silk for the body in there, but in my opinion, the stripped peacock curl, which is what I'm going to use, I'm sure it performs better. That's my opinion, but it's up to you. Trout seem to prefer a knotted midge because, well, I think it's more of a mouthful. And when they see them two together, they will assume they're mating and they'll have a good mouthful. They will often take them to the exclusion of anything else. Now, it floats quite well, this fly, because it's got two hackles. And it imitates so many of those small flies which we see circling over the water. Gnats, midges, reed smuts in the act of mating. Very popular in Scotland. I fished this on the Isle of Arran on the evening rise, and believe me, there are midges there, and they will eat you alive. Yes, they bite. Midge fishing is very well established in America. Now you can trim underneath this rear hackle if you want to, just here. The fly sits a bit lower in the water. It's entirely up to you, and this is a matter of personal taste. You can have confidence in this fly, and confidence is an essential ingredient in any fly. You won't do any good if you haven't got confidence in the fly. Okay, now I'm going to start the fly now, and I have already waxed the silk, so just bear with me. Okay, I give 2 winds forward, and I'm going to get a bit more silk here because I want to give this a good layer of silk in touching turns, and I do that by holding this piece up. And there's a good reason for that, because when I put the quill on, the stripped peacock quill, I want to see this silk underneath. It's my way of doing it, and I'm sure you will think it looks better. When I put it on a natural quill body like this, I run a yellow fluorescent marker pen down it, not so much to change the colour, but it makes the longitudinal stripe stand out better. Okay, I'm putting on the rear hackle. this is the first part. And now it's a long shank hook. It's size 14. I normally tie it on a 16, but I want to give you a demonstration and I don't want to make it too small for you to see. And a 14 is very suitable for fishing on our river, Ogmore and Oriweni. Okay, now this is a small brown, reddish brown hackle from a Saddle Cape. It's a small one because in essence we are fishing, we are tying a small fly. When I say a small fly, smallish, because the knotted midge, it is a midge. Okay, that's the aft hackle on, and I'm going to nip out this piece of silk. And I'm going to park my silk up the front. When I do this, so that I come back to where I start, I give 3 turns. 1, 2, 3. That's out of the way. Now I'm going to wind this aft hackle. It goes at the rear like this. You can overwind it if you want to. It doesn't matter because it's okay. We don't want to come up the shank too much. Okay, there we are. Now the advantage of my parking my silk. I take it back. 1, 2, 3, and I'm back to where I want it. One more wind there, but that doesn't matter. That is the rear hackle on. Nip out the waist and keep this for another fly. Draw it back a bit and tidy up. Right. Now because these flies are joined tail to tail, this is the head of one fly in theory. Now I'm going to tie in the stripped peacock curl. I can tie it in by the wide end, even though we're at the rear of this hook. Because this is a head of a fly, it's okay. Okay, now this peacock curl, it's from the eye feather of the peacock tail. I've tied it in, I've stripped it. I'm just giving it, ensure I've got a nice coating of silk underneath it because I'll be winding over it and leaving a little gap, only halfway. I want to be about there. So now I park my silk up the front again. 1, 2, 3. Now this is what I do. I get a quill, strip the flew off it, and I run one of these permanent yellow markers down it, as I said. Not important, you don't need to do it, but I think it looks a bit better. Right, now this quill, stripped quill, it's not the strongest material, so I'm just going to put a little bit of varnish, my side only, to help it to stick. Right, here we go. I'm just going to wind it. And my intention, as I wind this, is to leave a little bit of a gap. Not much, and I'm only going to come halfway. This is not a job to be rushed, so take your time with it. I'm eyeing up this shank of the hook. I don't want to go any more than that. There's the halfway stage. So I go back 1, 2, 3, and my silk is ready to secure it. Like that. Teeny bit restricted with the camera, so bear with me. I'm going to nip that out. Right, so that's the tail and the rear half of the body. You can see what I'm trying to do by looking at this fly. Now I'm going to tie in the tails. What a strange place to tie in tails. Halfway, because these flies are joined tail to tail in the act of mating. And for this, I use some ostrich herl. Just prepare it, just bear with me a second. I'm just bearing the tip of the ostrich, which I tie in like this. 1, 2, 3. A little stalk there which I'll nip out. And I'm just going to wind this just where it is now. Strange place to have a tail, to have two tails, but this is how the knotted midge would be. I take my silk back down ready to tie it off. Get one more wind. Don't want to make too much of this tail because it's not all that important, and maybe even if it wasn't there it wouldn't matter. But I like it, it works well for me, so I put it on. So that's the middle of the fly and that's the tail. I hope you understand what I'm saying when I say the two tails together. It's the knotted midge. Okay, another piece of peacock, stripped peacock, which I've run the pen down. This time, not important, I'm going to tie it in by the narrow end like that. And I'm going to take the silk forward, trying to do touch and turns, as I say, because I want the silk to show through the little gaps. Do a bit more. I think I will build that up a little bit more here. That's fine, that's fine. I'll let it hang there, ready for the front hackle. And now, touch of varnish again. Sally Hansen's clear varnish. And I mean a touch. Fabulous fly, this. Okay, I've got to watch my fingers, maybe in your way, but I'm hoping you can get the general idea. Can you see I'm trying to leave a little gap? I think this stripped peacock herl looks better with a little gap. Don't need to do it. Not all that important, but I like to do it. It's a recommendation of mine, but it's up to you. Okay. Nip that off. So all we need now is a front hackle. And the front hackle is a badger. Badger with a black centre. Little badger hackle again, but he's a little bit bigger than the one on the rear. Got him stripped. So I put him on with a figure of 8. One tie that way, one tie that way. Little herl getting caught there. Another that way. Gonna tie that stalk down. And come back to the front. Got to trace that stalk. I want to cut that off. Bear with me while I tilt the fly so that I can see it. There it is. That's the stalk out. There's still one hackle fibre there, but that doesn't matter. That'll get lost with all the others. My silk is at the front, and I now wind this hackle. Could use hackle pliers, which I like using and I do use often, but I don't think I need to with this fly. With this particular hackle, which is long enough for me to handle. I prefer to use my fingers if I can. I'm going to secure it like that. and cut off the surplus. When you cut in a hackle, keep your scissors closed till you're right up to it, and you won't lose too many of the precious hackles. Okay, now I'm going to take those back a bit to expose the head for me to finish off. And I just use the cotton bud to draw it back a bit. I mentioned the cotton bud, you know what it is. I've just cut the end off, make sure it's smooth, and I've got that tied back. Useful little sort of tool, really. Okay, I'm going to put on the whip finish. The way I normally do it. Bend over, secure this top one. Missed it. So I'll do it again. Like that. Secure the top one and wind around. 1, 2, 3 are enough on a dry fly of this size. Dubbing needle in the loop, and I draw it up like that. See it flexing? While it's there, I know the head is tight. I open my scissors to a gape and I gently push, and that cuts the silk. Now I'm just going to varnish the head. Get a bit of varnish on my needle. That'll do for now, because tomorrow, 24 hours later, I go back and always do varnish the head again. Important now to ensure the eye is clear. So I get an old hackle, run it up through once or twice. Sometimes you can draw one of the hackles of the fly through. If you do, just put this little bottle brush effect back down. Okay, there's our fly, the knotted midge. It's a dry fly, and I like it. I recommend it. It's a good fly. Now I really hope you enjoyed watching that as much as I enjoyed tying it. If so, I look forward to seeing you next time on Peter Ross on Fly Tying.